Good morning. It is Friday, October 17th, 2014. This is your morning edition on I-24 News. Coming up later today, according to Kurdish officials, Islamic State militants are retreating from parts of the predominantly Syrian town of Kobane, right on the Turkish border. A Texas doctor apologizes for what he calls mistakes in how his hospital, where 2 patients died of Ebola, handled the virus. And later on the show, the Imperial Craft Cocktail Bar here in Tel Aviv was voted the best bar in Africa and the Middle East at the world's 50 Best Bar Awards. Good morning, I'm Yael Avi, and we begin with our main topic of the day. According to several reports and Kurdish fighters, the battle to liberate the Syrian town of Kobane from ISIS is beginning to turn, finally. Fierce U.S. airstrikes killed several hundred Islamic State fighters in and around the besieged town, helping to swing some of the momentum back to the ethnic Kurds who have been battling the militants for months. So far, the damage from the fighting in and around Kobane has been massive. Syrian Observatory for Human Rights estimates there have been 650 casualties from the month-long fight, including civilians driven to Kobane from smaller Kurdish villages in the region overrun by the Islamic State organization. We are joined in studio by Channel 2's senior foreign affairs editor, Arad Nir. Arad, good morning to you.
Good morning, Yael. Good
and
to be
joining
here.
us on the phone from Jerusalem is Russia Today's Middle East Bureau Chief Paula Slier. Paula, good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
And now, before we begin, I would like to hear a few of the statements made over the course of the last few days when it comes to the fight in Kobane against the Islamic State organization. Let's start by listening to John Kirby, who is the U.S. Department of Defense spokesman. This is what he had to say about the fight.
It's also, ISIL has made no secret of the fact that they want that town, and this goes completely in line with what we've been saying before, that this was one of these guys want to grab ground. They want territory. Kobane is a territory they want, and so they have continued to flow fighters to Kobane, meaning there are more targets in and around Kobane. So one of the reasons why you're seeing more strikes there is because there's more ISL there. We believe, and it's hard to give an exact number, but we believe that we have killed several hundred ISIL fighters, again, in and around Kobane.
And as we said, this was U.S. Department of Defense spokesman John Kirby. Paula, first to you real quickly, because you just came back from Iraq, and obviously you've been covering this on the ground. When, the U.S. Department of Defense spokesman says that we believe we have killed many ISIL fighters, ISIS, the Islamic State organization, why is it so hard for the coalition forces and people battling this to figure out how much damage is being done to the Islamic State organization?
Well, I think one of the first problems is that they don't know exactly how many ISIS fighters are on the ground. Let me say, though, that I have been in touch with correspondents on the border. That is the closest that the journalists are able to get to the Syrian-Turkey border town of Kobane. And they are backing up the statements that are being made by the Pentagon. They're suggesting that around a third of the town is now in the hands of ISIS. They are managing to push back the Kurds fighting there, are managed to push back the ISIS fighters. The information that we're getting on the ground as well is that in the last 48 hours, there have been around 50 airstrikes that have killed around several hundred ISIS fighters. From what I can understand, they've been able to be pushed out of northern Kobane, but it is still a very serious fight on the ground, and there is still a lot of fear that the city could fall to the ISIS group. Now, the humanitarian situation seems to be averted for the moment. We are hearing that there are still hundreds of civilians trapped inside, but by far the majority have managed to be evacuated out of the town. One of the problems with the airstrikes in recent days is bad weather, and because of that, the airstrikes have been, up until the last 48 hours, not being able to carry out as many airstrikes as perhaps the United States might wanted to have. But let me make the point that the Kurds who are on the ground are supporting this information, that the airstrikes are being effective.
Right, that the airstrikes are being effective, and that once again, Kobane, predominantly a Kurdish town. Paula, do stay with us. We are also, of course, with senior foreign affairs editor for Channel 2, Arad Nir. Kobane, I think, is maybe one of the best examples of the stickiness of the fight against ISIL, because this is a border town in Syria, on the border with Turkey. And I think, am I correct in saying that one of the main problems here is that Turkey is not involving itself in this fight. This is a town that if it falls, I mean, all the eyes are turned to it. But Turkey is actually doing, the opposite of supporting this fight, isn't it, in many ways?
No doubt. And let me underline what Paula just said regarding the situation on the ground. There are some gains for the Kurdish fighters over there, but there's still a heavy fight going on. And if you would allow me, Yael, to be a bit cynical, let me give you an indicator when there will be a turnaround of this fight. Once you will see the Turks getting more and more involved, then you'd know that the Kurds have the upper hand.
Right.
This is the situation. So the Turks are standing over the hills that overlook Kobane, and they just look what's going on. If I may refer to, like, let's say, kids talk, they side with ISIS. They do not want Kobane to be a Kurd entity, a Kurd entity.
And if
so
I go with what you're
once
saying
the
also,
Kurds would have the upper hand, then they would be involved somehow in order to avoid this.
No, and a fascinating report, because I think we don't realize the stickiness of the situation, because also if the Kurds manage to make gains and push ISIS back from Kobane, it's a huge victory for the Kurdish cause in many ways.
That's it. And this is what really bothers Turkey. And this is why Turkey, in the last few days, Turkey went out after the Kurds in Turkey, the PKK strongholds, in order to make, they send a message. We want you to stay here. We don't want you to pour into northern Syria and help your brothers in Kobane. So the Turks are going on a very, very thin wire here, playing it very, very controversial, I'd say, in the coalition eyes. We've seen in the pictures just a few minutes ago all these airstrikes on Kobane. Now, these airstrikes are about 1 or 2 kilometers from Turkey, but the aircrafts that strike this come from the Gulf, which is hundreds of miles away. They can take off Incirlik air base, NATO air base, which is in Turkey, and it's about 20 minutes flight, even less, to these targets, but the Turks wouldn't allow it. So this is the situation. Now, coming back to the whole coalition action or to the U.S. involvement, there's a saying floating around that whatever the Americans are doing, whatever the coalition is doing, is too little. And even this is being done a bit too slow.
No, and I'm very glad you're pointing that out, because and Paula Slier is still with us on the phone. Too little, too late is something that's being said all around. But when it comes also to the supposed change of gains in Kobane and fighting back and ISIS being supposedly pushed back, this is a video released by the Islamic State group actually in the last couple of days in response to the news that Kobane is actually turning when it comes to gains, that many ISIL fighters have been killed. Let's take a look at the latest video released online by the Islamic State organization.
We are waiting for you in Jaffa. We are waiting for you in Iraq. So bring a coalition of unbelievers, because these unbelievers will not help you. And your puppet apostates, these people cannot help you in the least. We'll take their weaponry as booty, and these people will die. I know this, that you cannot come into Sham, you cannot come into Iraq, and think that you will take it. No way. We are willing to lay down our blood on this soil. So try to come, and we will kill every single soldier, bi'idhnillah. We will chop off the heads of the Americans, chop off the heads of the French, chop off the heads of whoever you may bring. Who can help you against the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Who can help you against the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I know that none can help you. I know that we are fighting for a cause. I know that we are fighting to die and to gain shahada. I know that you are fighting for this world, and this is nothing to us.
Paula Slier still on the phone with us. When we look at these videos, when we hear these videos of the Islamic State organization fighters making such a strong case, but this is directly in response to Kirby basically saying, we've killed many fighters. Is there any way to quantify how many ISIS fighters are on the ground? And again, because you keep covering this from the field, it feels like it's a group of people that nobody knows how to quantify or how to fight. Am I correct in saying this?
I think you are correct in saying that, and I think one of the problems, and this is something that I certainly experienced when I was on the ground there, is that a lot of support for ISIS is fluid in the sense that locals are coming forward to actually join ISIS. I interviewed people in refugee camps, and also when I was in the town of Rabia, which had just recently been taken back by the Kurdish Peshmerga fighters from ISIS, and I heard the same points of view, where people were saying what would happen when ISIS would enter a town and your local Kurds would flee, but you would always have, particularly in towns that had a large Arab population, people who would turn to support ISIS. As one man in a refugee camp told me, he had grown up with some people who were Muslim in the town, who were Arab Muslim, and suddenly when ISIS was there, they were forcing them to convert, and they were pointing guns in their direction. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's so difficult to say how many ISIS supporters there are, because as they make their advancements, so they get support from local populations, whether it's out of fear or whether it's out of genuine belief. The other problem is when I was in the town of Rabia and I was talking to people there who had fought ISIS, I asked them where are they coming from, and they said there is just about every identity that they've seen. They have seen Afghans, they have seen people from as far as Pakistan, as well as local Iraqis. And when you have the borders that are not so clearly controlled, and it's easy for people to be smuggled across or come across as areas taken by ISIS, so it's more difficult to determine the exact numbers.
Right. And that's the frightening bit about it. And Rodney, once again to you, when I look at all these reports that you've been sitting here with me several mornings looking at ISIS, it's the fact that we don't know how many of them there are, that they're coming from all over. It's the fact that, the battle against them seems so fierce to the point where, coalition forces cannot actually work this completely alone from the air, can they, at the end of the day?
No, everybody claims that, and apparently even President Obama,
That's what they're beginning to,
admits that it cannot be cleared from the air, but he states it clearly as such that he's not willing to send boots on the ground, and he expects the countries who are suffering most from this threat to act on the ground, i.e. Iraq and Turkey. Now, the Iraqi army is unfortunately trying, but ineffectively.
I'll be cynical and call the Iraqi army is somewhat of an oxymoron, a contradiction in terms. Yes.
Yeah. And we are mainly focusing on Kobane in the recent weeks, but there is a fight going on around Baghdad, quite close to Baghdad, and again, the ISIS fighters have some gains over there. It's not as fast as these people we've just seen expected to be, but they do have gains, and eventually they will aim at the Baghdad airport. This is the prediction of General Dempsey of the United States. So there is fighting going on there. The Turks we've been talking about during all our meetings, all these mornings as well. And, Paula was referring to this inflow of fighters from all over. The main path to flow in is through Turkey. People come to Turkey, and there's this porous border between Turkey, Iraq, and Syria, and people are actually going over it, going through it. President Erdogan is denying it, but this does not change the facts. And funny enough, they won't let Kurds join the fight in Kobane through these borders. They are efficient enough to stop the Kurds, the supply of Kurds into this fight, but they cannot do anything, or they even deny the flow actually of these volunteers that join ISIS.
They join ISIS. No, and it's that flow of people back and forth that's also quite alarming. I think, Paula, so you've also been there, and when it comes to the refugee problem, that's something that you've covered intensely on the ground. It was also the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon who actually had the following to say about what we cannot forget. It's the huge humanitarian crisis that is evolving as these battles are going on in and around the Middle East when it comes to the Islamic State. And this is what the UN Secretary General had to say about the situation in Kobane.
I remain alarmed at the situation in Syria. I once again call for steps to prevent the massacre and protect the civilians in Kobane. But let us remember that civilians across Syria are under imminent threat. In addition to the barbarity of ISIL or Daesh, the Syrian government continues to indiscriminately attack populated areas, including with the barrel bombs. The Daesh phenomenon in Syria is a consequence, not the cause, of the conflict.
And as we said, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon talking there about the conflict in and around Syria, but also referring to the humanitarian, and as I reminded people, the humanitarian crisis that is unfolding on that border between Syria and Turkey. But there is an inherent problem with Turkey of not wanting to play along, as you said before.
Yeah, well, Turkey is accepting refugees during all this crisis. There are about 1.5 million refugees that were absorbed in Turkey and accepted there. But nonetheless, we know we've been talking about Turkey reluctance to take part in the military strike, and Turkey is paying the price. Last night, the vote in the UN Security Council, Turkey was aiming at one of the rotating seats at the council, and it lost it.
And it lost. As you said, eventually, Erdogan will be paying the price one way or the other.
He started paying it last night.
Aradnia, thank you very much. You're staying with us for the next segment. Paula Sleer, Russia Today Middle East Bureau Chief, thank you for being with us as always. And as we move on. Now, the news about a second nurse in Dallas infected with Ebola after treating the patient who died of the disease has spread mass hysteria in the United States. Dallas County Commissioners consider issuing a disaster declaration. There's talk of a possible U.S. travel ban to West Africa, where the virus has been wreaking havoc. But above all, information in the United States and the Western world as to how serious the situation is very hard to decipher. Now, still with us in studio is Channel 2's Senior Foreign Affairs Editor Rodney. Good morning again to you again. And of course, I-24 News correspondent Charles Biblazer. Good morning to both of you. And I mean, first of all, I want to start by hearing what, I think it was, pardon me, I think it was President Barack Obama had to say the other day on the matter. President Barack Obama the other day had to say in the United States when it comes to Ebola, because I think people are, spreading mass hysteria before they're spreading the virus. Let's have a look.
If we do these protocols properly, if we follow the steps, if we get the information out, then the likelihood of widespread Ebola outbreaks in this country are very, very low. I am absolutely confident that we can prevent a serious outbreak of the disease here in the United States. But it becomes more difficult to do so if this epidemic of Ebola rages out of control in West Africa. If it does, then it will spread globally.
I-24 News correspondent Charles Biblazer. This is the United States president using the word outbreak many times in a statement, which is quite frightening, and I don't know if very wise. But what is the latest when it comes to the United States? When it comes to numbers and the nurses infected, what do we know?
Well, in the U.S., basically, we've had 4 people infected, confirmed with Ebola, 2 of which were contracted the disease while in West Africa, and now 2 actually who have contracted the disease in Texas, which has raised all sorts of issues as to whether or not the U.S. is actually dealing with this in a legitimate fashion. A lot of criticism has come that the U.S. has not implemented any type of travel ban from these 3 hardest hit West African countries. But when the U.S. president uses the word outbreak, I think at this stage it's a legitimate statement. You have cases just last night. 3 more nurses in Spain were hospitalized with suspected cases. You had a suspected case in Australia. You obviously just yesterday there was the flight from Paris en route to Madrid that was grounded. This is a serious ordeal. It's getting more serious. By the end of the December, the WHO just estimated that some 5,000 to 10,000 cases will be happening every single week. And earlier last month, the CDC raised its worst estimate to 1.4 million cases by the spring.
By the spring, 1.4, and they said, did they specify 1.4 million cases mostly in Africa, I'm assuming? Nobody knows.
You can't know. I mean, there are models that do this type of thing, but with air travel and globalization today, who knows where it's going to pop up next, really.
I'm sufficiently freaked out right now, but before we continue, I'd like us to hear what the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights had to say, Ziad Ra'ad al-Hussein, regarding Ebola and what seems to be an evolving crisis around the world. Let's take a look.
Our entire annual budget was the equivalent of 1 day of iPhone sales during that period. We are not asking for very much. And some governments, in fact, most governments of countries with huge economies are devoting very little to the international human rights system, despite talking loudly and proudly about human rights in their foreign policy.
Still with us in studio, Radnja, Senior Foreign Affairs Editor for Channel 2. Sufficiently freaked out is the word for everyone. But, you know, I'm wondering, this is the UN's High Commissioner for Human Rights, basically comparing the Islamic State, you know, big foe threat to this horrific Ebola maybe outbreak that is scaring the entire world, and that both were disregarded by, you know, by the world, essentially. Should we be this scared?
There is one similarity between the ISIS scare and the Ebola scare. This is the psychological factor. Both cases are working very, very efficiently on this psychological factor. Now, we've been talking about ISIS for about 15 minutes, right. So let's concentrate on Ebola now. Well, I'm a bit out of the line regarding my view regarding Ebola. I think that the Western world is paying the price of hybris over Africa for many decades. Right. Ebola is very, very dangerous virus, quite a lethal disease, right. But it can be contained. It's very easy to contain Ebola because it's, you know, the way the disease develops is quite predictable. We know how it develops. We know how to prevent contamination. I mean the medical community. But in the Western world, there were no SOAPs arranged, no standard operating procedure. We've been following this case of the Dallas patient that actually died of the disease. People did not put they did not treat this, the medical staff did not treat this patient from day one as it should have been. He wasn't isolated. It took time until they realized how to do it. There are no procedures how to deal with Ebola patients, not in Africa, because who cared? It was an African disease. It was, one of these diseases that the West couldn't care about.
No, it's a horrible thing to say because it's happening in Africa and it's killing black people.
It was an African exotic disease. There's a group of diseases like this. Let's say, for example, malaria. Malaria is killing more people every day than Ebola does. But who cares? It's only in Africa now. So Ebola actually went out of Africa, caught the West unprepared, and believe me, in no time, the world will prepare itself against, the Western world, right. the rich world, the world that sells iPhones for so much money. This world will prepare itself. They will make the necessary SOAPs, necessary standard operating procedures, and eventually this disease will be contained. Whilst all the authorities involved will cut their own coupon on it, be it World Health Organization, be it American politics, be it Israeli politicians. Today in Israel we are having a drill in the airport, right. How to deal with Ebola patient coming in. Okay, the Prime Minister can show he's in full control, he's doing something, but eventually this is there's a media hype
that goes along with it.
But ISIS will last longer.
Will last longer.
Unfortunately.
Charles Bibler, well, sadly so. Charles Bibler of I-24 News. I'm wondering if the mass hysteria is going that way. And as Raniel said, that there's political capital in it, but around the world, airports are beginning screenings, right?
Of course. There are 5 or 6 major airports in the United States that have implemented certain procedures to screen. These are the 5 airports in major cities that bring in about 150 people from West Africa per day, which amounts to about 95% of the total amount of West Africans entering the country. People are getting serious about it, but I agree with what Arad said. Basically, the response time to this was absolutely terrible. You have to think that these West African countries, you look at Sierra Leone, for example, it's basically a failed state. The average life expectancy for a male is something like 35 years old. Right. They needed help. They didn't get it. The consequences are being felt.
No, which is, the sad thing is that it needs, 3 to 4 white people, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say it that way, in the Western world to be afflicted by the disease for the World Health Organization to take notice. But when it comes to the mass hysteria in the States, that's the thing that, as you said, response and information and even, follow-up on the patients in the United States it's causing right now everybody to react. There's even this video that was released of the latest nurse that was infected that is basically, a note to America. Let's take a look at her name. I think is Pam Young, right? And this is what she had to say, or this is what they released in the United States regarding her condition.
Thanks for getting well. Thanks for being part of the volunteer team to take care of our first patient. It means a lot. This has been a huge effort by all of you guys. Okay. Yeah, we're really proud of you. All right.
Come to Maryland, everybody.
Party in Maryland? Okay. You need anything? Okay. There's no crying. Well, happy tears are okay. Otherwise, no tears. No crying. It's not allowed. Love you, Nina.
As we said, the response, but also the coverage of the Ebola virus in the United States at least enables people to see how patients are doing. Charles Bibler of I-24 News, thank you for joining me this morning. Aradnir, always a pleasure to have you with us. When we get back, construction begins in the attempt to rebuild Gaza as materials are finally flowing in to the Palestinian enclave. Before anything else, though, let's go back to some of the morning headlines. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. I-24 News Morning Edition on this Friday, October 17th. Thank you. Yes. This Friday, October 17th, 2014, where I am joined by Anthony Grant, who joins us daily to discuss the news you missed while scanning the headlines.
Or listening to them.
Or listening to them, yeah. and to make me a very happy girl. Shoot.
Well,
yes.
Let's talk about, of course, sort of an electronic headline. We have something that was broadcast on Fox News.
On Fox News, we're going to have to give
States.
it credit, definitely.
Yes, absolutely. We have a big anchor, Shepard Smith, who sort of advised his viewers to kind of tamp down the Ebola panic. Maybe we can take a quick listen.
Let's take a quick look. This is Shep Smith, Fox News.
I report to you with certainty this afternoon that being afraid at all is the wrong thing to do. Being petrified, and that's a quote, is ridiculous. The panic that has tanked the stock market and left people fearful that their children will get sick at school is counterproductive and lacks basis in fact or reason. There is no Ebola spreading in America. Should that change, our reporting will change. But there is nothing to indicate that it will. Best advice for you and your family at this moment, get a flu shot. Unlike Ebola, flu is easily transmitted. Flu, along with resulting pneumonia, killed 52,000 Americans last year alone. A flu shot will reduce your chance of getting flu.
Yeah, and of course it's very interesting because of course the media, it's a story and it is a real, legitimate, terrifying story, and people like Shepard Smith are a part of the narrative, if you will.
Completely, but I'm so glad you brought this because I got to tell you, I tip my chapeau to him. It's something that I think even the United States president should have done in some ways. This is the calmest statement.
He's always very unflappable guy.
Unflappable, but to take a straight, I think that you and I and people who work in the media know that if it's a slow news day, if it's a slow news cycle, then we have to generate something, to make news. I'm not saying Ebola is a terrifying thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the mass hysteria, the fact that, all of us around the world are already thinking that this is the Black Plague, I think things need to be put in perspective, and that's something that he's trying to do.
Yeah,
so
and of course, and as the news changes, of course, you changed the reporting accordingly. But as of now, I think obviously what he's saying has struck a chord. So,
yeah, definitely.
So interesting stuff to watch there. Shifting back to the Middle East,
yes.
Did you hear about the Dutch bikers that are joining the fight against ISIS?
No, but
there's Dutch bikers joining the fight against the ISIS in Iraq. Yeah, actually, it's a few members of a Dutch motorcycle club, which it's called.
I'm sorry, this war is getting weirder and weirder.
It is weirder, but they've signed on to fight alongside the Kurds, and according to the Dutch prosecutor's office, they're okay with it. It's not good. That wasn't the exact quote.
Yes.
But
but they're good with it. Okay,
the Dutch are pretty,
They're laid back.
Cool. They're laid back people.
They've got several things that make them legally laid back.
Yes, that is true.
That. Yes.
Now, of course, joining, of course, the reverse. If you were going to join ISIS, that's where Western governments rightfully get into a tizzy, so to speak. But this shows you that people are, it's almost flashback to the Crusades. People
really
joining
is.
Different sides. So it's crazy stuff.
And using their bikes, yes.
I don't know if they brought their bikes with them over there, but
Dutch bikers.
But they are former soldiers, so they do have military training.
Because there was a bit of here that I was wondering. It's very nice of them, but how effective is this going to be?
They're tough.
They're tough. They're tough bikers. Yes.
Tough bikers. Cute. Yes. In El País, which is, of course, Spain's leading newspaper, we have, I don't know if we discussed it earlier, but the United States has formally asked Spain to use its bases for its Ebola mission out of Africa. So this is, of course, talking about the United States bases in Morón de la Frontera, near Seville, and Rota, long-standing base there. And the Spanish...
I've actually been to that base. Yes, go ahead.
And near Cadiz, I think. Beautiful city. And the Spanish military health officials are negotiating strict protocols to make sure that there are appropriate measures taken so that the people are staying on the base and
not coming off.
Yeah,
so I think that's the one thing that scares, and it's the spread of the disease primarily that we're so uneducated about, I think, throughout the world, but definitely, at least the mission in Africa is beginning, and we have to remind people, and I'm glad you brought this to our attention, which is we have to remind people that that's where the Ebola virus is killing the most people, and it's Africa. That's the continent that needs the most help.
Yeah. And of course, the U.S. mission is controversial, but again, it's having its impact is felt as far as governments in Europe, so to speak. Washington Times, not Washington Post, but the Times, ran an interesting story about Iran, saying Iran executions have been surging amid U.S. nuclear talks. Now, here's the link that they're making. They say that reportedly there have been about 560 executions in Iran over the past...
560?
Over the past 9 months. I'm not verifying it. That's what they're reporting.
That's according to the report,
according to the story. And basically the article is saying that as the U.S. is negotiating with the huge nuclear issue, that perhaps Obama should be reminding the world of the human rights abuses, and actually that would be a good thing to bring to light, because it would sort of say, hey, how can we take these people really seriously if they are not actually respecting basic human rights law? And they talk about the Cold War and how the Soviet Union negotiating with them and Ronald Reagan. And so it's a bit of a political piece as well, but it's interesting to
it's fascinating to wonder also, because there are so many things in play. If, human rights advocates are urging Obama to increase pressure on Tehran, but then, as you mentioned, there are the talks coming up, and I'm wondering how much the United States needs Iran now that, people may turn a blind eye to horrific stories as such, but time will tell.
Absolutely. Also, in the region, Financial Times reports that Jimmy Carter, the Carter Center, is withdrawing its office from Egypt amid what they call a rights crackdown. Wow. So this is something that's quite interesting. They, of course, this is Jimmy Carter's sort of foundation.
Yes, clearly,
and,
Jimmy Carter. To those in the audience who are not as young as we are, the father of the Israeli-Egyptian peace accords, basically, the U.S. president at the time.
Absolutely.
So they were drawing because of human rights crackdown.
They say that there's what they call a narrowing of the political space, and that it's harder to exercise alternate political views and that sort of thing. And there could be other reasons, but that's what they're talking about.
Or possibly journalists being held in prison, like the Al Jazeera journalist, and for many. I
think that factors into the whole picture. But it's opened three years ago, that office, so maybe it will.
Closing down.
Come back at some point. Political controversy in Florida, where you heard about the fan dispute, which took center stage at the Florida gubernatorial debate Wednesday night, when Florida Governor, Republican incumbent Rick Scott, initially refused to take to the stage because his opponent, Democrat Charlie Crist, insisted on having a fan to keep him cool. So what happened was that
having what?
A fan, because the spotlight, the lights were sort of, and
yes,
he's known to like fans when he's giving his political talks because it keeps him cool.
Yes.
So anyway, Republican governor did not emerge until 6 minutes after the official start of the debate. So you had pictures like that, like basically standing there with an empty podium.
With an empty podium.
Yeah, and it's you call it uniquely Floridian, but it's definitely generated debate in the state.
Yeah, uniquely Floridian, because I have to say, at the end of the day, when a dispute in Florida starts, the fan dispute. Yes, that's phenomenal.
Fangate, they're calling it. The Social media is a buzz. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
That's politicized. The Telegraph, interesting headline about the new Mrs. Clooney, and that is, I think, the takeaway here. Well, Amal Clooney is talking about Greece and has just cause to its claim to the return of the Elgin marbles from the Parthenon.
Follow up on the story brought us last week.
Yes, and so now she's actually met with the Greek Prime Minister Samaras about it, and she's going officially by Clooney. So
and then the only thing I'm taking from this, I got to tell you. Exactly.
Amal Clooney.
The only thing I'm taking from this is I'm looking, she took his last name.
People were wondering, and she's going to be throwing that weight around.
Exactly. Amal Clooney.
One to watch. And she's been feted like a rock star in Greece, sort of like new Jackie Onassis.
I would not have taken his last name, I got to say.
I know that.
I'm sorry, Arlene Rocket can be smiling, but come on, she's much more impressive than him.
These decisions are made behind the scenes.
I mean, if I remembered like George Alamuddin, what's her last name?
Was
Alamuddin. Yeah. So I think I would be, I'm going to first say I would demand that he take my last name.
Here.
That's what we're saying. Tony, thank you very much. Stick with us for the next part of the show. And of course, we are very glad to be joined in studio by Ali Waqid, Senior I-24 News Middle East Analyst. Good morning to you, Ali. Because 7 weeks after the end of Operation Protective Edge, which has left most of the Gaza Strip in ruins, building materials are finally being transferred into the Palestinian enclave, but not without controversy surrounding it. So, Ali and I are going to decipher this right after we look at the following report.
For the first time since the 50-day conflict between Israel and Hamas, construction supplies are beginning to flow in order to rebuild Gaza, after roughly $5.5 billion was donated for the rebuilding by the international community. Concrete, cement, and steel are finally moving in.
20,000 tons of construction material should enter Gaza every day. This will not be fulfilled unless Israel will open all the crossings. Yesterday, 3,000 tons of construction material, cement, iron, and other material crossed to Gaza Strip through Karim Abu Salem. I think if it continues like this, there will be a delay in rebuilding the Strip.
Israel's 7-week offensive in order to halt rocket fire emanating from the Gaza Strip is estimated to have destroyed roughly 80,000 homes. Though help is on its way, many residents here feel it will not come quickly enough.
The cement is not enough, is it, to build one house? There are thousands of houses destroyed. Chejaya is destroyed. There is no house. All are destroyed. The chicken and livestock farms are also destroyed. There is no life.
The head of the Kerem Abu Salem crossing said residents are currently expecting 15 trucks carrying cement, around 600 tons of it, as well as 10 trucks of iron, around 400 tons. It is the hopes it will come, and come quickly, and will allow residents to build their lives again.
Joined by Ali Waqid, Senior Middle East Analyst for I-24 News. Clearly, this is going to take a lot of time to rebuild the massive, massive, massive damage. But what are the sticking points when it comes to getting construction material into Gaza that is so upsetting?
There are technical sticking points, and of course, Yael, there are political sticking points. And I believe that the political issue is more important, sticking this whole operation than the technical issue. One, the Egyptians are still demanding that the Hamas will allow the Palestinian Authority to practice all its sovereignty and control over the Gaza Strip, starting by the crossings and then taking control of the whole Gaza Strip. And Israel, who on the other hand is not willing to see this process happening, but is concentrating on the inspection and supervising of the supplying of materials to the Gaza Strip. We should clarify: nothing enters to the Gaza Strip as part of this process without the accord, without the agreement of the Israeli government. The rhythm is not enough, and according to the Palestinian Authority, this rhythm bring the population to lose trust in the Palestinian Authority and in this process, and to take back the conflict to a military conflict between Israel and Hamas, and so we avoid the political process that aim to start negotiations between Israel and the Palestinian Authority on one hand, and that aims to give the Palestinian Authority the control and the sovereignty over the Gaza Strip.
Over the borders. And the problem here is also that I think this is coming right on the heels of the Cairo conference, where obviously Israel was not invited. It was a conference to get money to assist Gaza, to assist rebuilding Gaza. Palestinians went to Cairo asking for $4 billion. Came out with $5.4 billion being pledged for them. But Israel is also very concerned that that money will be used actually not for rebuilding the Strip, rather for rebuilding the tunnels, isn't it? Is there any way of monitoring that, is what I think people are wondering.
Yeah, there is a way of monitoring that. If there is the Palestinian Authority as the exclusive address for this money, with international assistance and participation, the bank account should be a bank account for this operation. And to tell you the truth, Yael, after the 2011 war, there was also this story of inspecting the money. The money that came from the international community went to the very specific projects that were decided in the international community, and especially in the UN via UNRWA. The money that Hamas used for consolidating its infrastructure didn't come from this international community, and didn't come after conferences. It came through channels that Hamas know to use and Hamas know to create. The fear here of the Israelis and of Hamas that this process will turn into a political process that will make the one and the other lose their privileges or change the status quo. There are two sides here that are not enthusiastic to see the status quo changing. One, Hamas will lose all its rule in the Gaza Strip, and the Israelis will be led to a political process that maybe will change the coalition in Israel.
The status quo. Thank you so much for joining us, Ali Waqid. When we get back, something different. The best bar in Africa and the Middle East is in Tel Aviv. Yes, we'll tell you all about it. First, though, let's hear some more of the morning headlines. Welcome back. It is still Friday, October 17, 2014. This is still the morning edition. I am still Yael Levi, last I checked. And thank you for staying with us. because this is a fun segment for which I have to clear my throat. So, let's say you're in Tel Aviv and you're looking for a cool bar to go out to for a drink. In that case, you know, you should probably go to the Imperial Craft Cocktail Bar because it has been voted the best, the most amazing bar in the Middle East. I kid you not. Yes, it's located, the Imperial Bar is located at the Imperial Hotel on the city's Ayerkon Street. It was voted the best bar in Africa and the Middle East at the world's 50 Best Bar Awards. That's huge. And we're happy to be joined in studio by one of the owners of the Imperial Craft Cocktail Bar, Bar Shira. That is incredible that your name is Bar.
Yeah, it is.
I have to say, I know, that's like
the happiest of coincidences.
Exactly. Is this something that you said, I'm going to be a bar owner because my name is Bar? Is it the chicken and the egg? What preceded which?
Well, I was actually called Jonathan, and then I changed it to
Aha! Okay, so.
No, not really. But
Not really. You were born Bar.
Yeah.
So tell us about, first of all, Tony Grant here with me. Both of us.
Avid bar goer at times.
At times, exactly. We're hip and happening people. The Imperial Bar. And we're not drunk right now, but the Imperial Bar.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, apparently, yeah, allegedly. Tell us about the bar and this competition, which I never heard of. So.
This competition is kind of like the equivalent to the San Pellegrino 50, the world's 50 best restaurants, if you know of it.
Okay.
And it's conducted by kind of like more than 300 industry leaders, brand ambassadors, and leading bartenders who travel all over the world. And everyone, and it's held by Drink International magazine, which is kind of like one of the biggest magazines in the world. Drinks International.
Drinks International. How am I not subscribing to that one? Okay. Yes.
And each year they being asked to vote for 5 bars they've been in around the world. And it should be bars that they have drank in and have been in.
That they were really actually in. Right.
They're not financially connected to none of them that they own or they have worked for. And some from their own country and some from other countries. So it has to be kind of like, from different countries all over the world.
So this is actually, it's a global one. It's not
It is a global one.
It's a
global. It's
you're in the
world's
category
50
of the
best bars.
Right, regionally.
No, it's world's 50 best bars. We were voted number 56 in the world, so we were just shy outside the list.
Okay.
But there's also regional awards. So, but we were the best in our region.
Right.
So we
Who are you up against in the Middle East? That's what I want to know.
The bar scene is happening in kind of like a few select locations. South Africa.
Okay.
From Africa.
From Africa, right?
There's the UAE, Dubai, and Kuwait and Qatar, which has a really flourishing bar scene because of all the foreigners coming in, and also there's
a lot of money. That's also
there's a ton of money over there. There's a ton of like high-end restaurants and like franchises from Europe,
right.
that are being set up there, and apparently, in Beirut.
Not apparently. I was about to say, not apparently. I was in Beirut. Listen to me.
Okay, I wasn't. I really want to go.
Beirut has an amazing bar scene. It has some of the most amazing bars. I was in a bar there that's on the rooftop of a building.
Sky bar.
It's a sky bar, and and they actually basically built the sky bar from a train compartment. That they lifted up to the top of a building. And you're sitting in the train compartment on top of a building. Beirut has an amazing bar scene. You should go. I'm kidding.
I should go. I want to go.
I know. Exactly. Yeah. So it was between Beirut and you won. Now, what makes your bar so amazing? Sell it. Go for it. And you didn't bring drinks, which is ridiculous.
I didn't. It's too early in the morning for me. I barely woke up. But
what should we say?
Keep you on your toes.
Exactly.
Now, signature cocktail, perhaps?
Yes. What is the signature cocktail?
We do have a lot of them, but we're in between. We're focusing on craft and on a relentless effort to be, to uphold the best ingredients, to be
in beer.
In what?
In beer, craft. Did you say? Oh, craft. No, sorry, you're craft. I'm thinking draft.
No, not craft beer, but we're crafting our cocktails ingredients. Everything is done back of house. All the syrups, all the juices are there's nothing commercial.
Seriously, everything, the juices and all that's all in-house.
Everything is in-house. We're doing, we're using only the best spirits. We're infusing spirits with local ingredients, and
what is the best cocktail? Yeah, go.
What would some of those local ingredients be?
Yes.
Are we talking like arak?
No, not local spirits, but local like ingredients that you can find in the market. So like we have a smoky single malt that we infuse with chamomile, and then we make a drink out of.
A smoky single malt infused with chamomile.
So this is
good times.
Yeah.
Good times. Good times.
Yes. I'm sorry,
Seriously,
but
we did it at times. We did. You know what mezcal is?
Yes, mezcal. Do you have the little warm in it?
No, the warm in it it's a thing of the past, but now mezcal is
Really?
coming in big
See,
time.
that's when I used to drink mezcal when it had the warm.
When it was bad.
When it was bad. Okay, yeah.
Now it's good.
And we kind of like took our own version of Hawaiian. You know what that is?
Hawaiian. How do I explain? Hawaiian is
It's kind of like a Yemenite mixture of spices.
Nice.
And we made our own version, kind of like, and we infused it with the mezcal to get it a bit more
No,
character.
so you do use like local ingredients because
Yeah.
Hawaiian is it's an Oriental, actually
Very
Yemenite
distinctive
spice.
flavor,
Yeah, and distinctive
sure.
to the region.
Yeah.
Nice. And
So that we make cocktails out of that, and we have our tremendous respect for the classics.
such as?
So, from the Negroni to the Bijou and the dry martini, of course.
I was about to say, because I'm a martini girl myself.
Then you have
I'm a stirred, not shaken. Yes, straight up with 2 olives. That's me. Okay.
you have a drink at the house. And
did you note that?
Yes, I was just saying exactly on the house. Bar. Sadly, I mean, we're going to move on to Tony, but you're staying here because I'm salivating myself, and we're going to be very, very, very nice to you, so we get all these free drinks. The bar name is Imperial.
It's Imperial.
Imperial. I'm sorry, and it's on the beachfront in Tel Aviv. And I'm just a very proud local. I'm a Tel Aviv resident. That it's the best bar in the region, and take that, Beirut. So
absolutely,
absolutely.
What's
right.
a bijou?
I have no idea. What is a bijou?
A bijou is a kind of like a chartreuse steak on a Negroni.
Oh, chartreuse. Yes.
I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, there's a ton of classics that nobody knows of that we kind of brought back.
In your bar.
We're talking serious fun here.
Serious fun. Okay.
Good stuff.
And Tony Grant still here with obviously always here with the web review, the spiral viral thingy that's going around. Take it away.
Well, I saw that logo of the imperial symbol on that bar shirt, and of course, I think of the Queen.
Yes.
Of England.
I always think
yes,
of the Queen.
I always do as well. How can you not? Well, she was going artistic yesterday, I think it was. Yes, the Poppy exhibition.
Whoa.
Yes, at the Tower of London. She paying tribute to the fallen soldiers of World War I.
Yes.
Thousands and thousands of ceramic poppies were made by people in I think Derby in the
That's
UK.
A ceramic.
These are not real poppies. These
are you serious? Wow.
Yeah. It's a very moving artistic display at the Tower of London, and so she went to accompanied by Prince Philip, of course, to make the poppy rounds.
I think this is just a picture to look at it, savor, because we are living in the 21st century.
But notice how she pairs a blue outfit against it's like the sky symbol of and it's very.
No, it's all the. I mean, I love her in blue. I gotta say, fuchsia pink is the thing that I'm gonna stop because seriously, this is a somber moment.
It's somber, but somber, uplifting.
Uplifting,
yes,
yeah.
Beautiful stuff.
God save her.
God save her. Speaking of world leaders, but on the complete other side of the spectrum, Hitler.
Whoa!
Yes. Turns out. Hitler.
I love it when you make these turns. Yes.
Oh, well,
yeah,
this
Hitler.
one was made for Hitler.
Today on Hitler,
was
yes.
a meth head. Now, listen. This kind of stuff. I don't even know why this is in the news, but you know why it's in the news? Because in the news, there's a documentary out about Hitler's drug habits.
Hitler was on crystal meth. Sorry.
Hitler was on crystal meth and a stunning array of drugs.
Yeah, apparently not from Heisenberg.
Exactly. Stunning array of drugs. What more? What else was he on?
He was. Let's see. He was. Well, my goodness. Morphine, barbiturates, bull's semen, crystal meth, and other drugs, depending on his momentary needs. Now, this is according to a 47-page U.S. military dossier, so I make this up not.
You do? Thank you, Yoda.
Okay.
My God. Which I think explains why he hated us so much, don't you think?
I think it could have fueled certain inherent racist craziness that he had. And again, how come we didn't act on this 60 or whatever years ago? Why does it take a British documentary for it to come to the fore?
This is on a British documentary.
Yeah, you can see it this weekend. It's called Hitler's Hidden Drug Habit. And,
We're so scaring the guests. You're going to need a drink after this one. But Hitler's hidden drug habit.
Yeah, so the UK is the place to be
it's the place to be to watch things right now. Yes, and what else? Oh my God.
Speaking of what some people would call corporate fascism, Apple.
Yes.
Apple Pay is set to launch October 20th.
Apple what?
Apple Pay, so you can pay for things with your iPhone and have the money taken right out of your account.
And then they'll just stick you with music you don't necessarily want to hear and just have it play out.
Yeah.
Okay, you pay and then YouTube sings.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Apparently, there have been secret memos to Panera Bread that have been leaked. And Walgreens apparently. So the information is creeping out that Apple Pay is coming our way.
It's coming our way, and if you don't use it, they're just going to sell all your information to the world.
Yes, I'm sure that
it's the future, people.
It is the future. So you've been warned.
Oh yeah. And
on a medical note, I just wanted to mention the Italian nurse who apparently knocked off 38 patients because she found them annoying. Now,
whoa, sorry.
Now, this is something that I don't even know what to say, but she was arrested the other day near Milan.
Is this her?
That's her. Now I have to say, beware of anyone who wears a Santa hat to a beach. You know,
So she killed 38 patients?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. She found them annoying.
Yeah, she said that when people would complain about difficult patients, other medical staff, she would say, "Leave it to me, I'll quiet them down." Now.
Yes.
We're talking extra high levels of potassium found in people's blood.
Yeah, I was about to say, how did she kill them?
Yeah, a quixotic cocktail of various ingredients.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
I have to say, she would have killed me in 5 minutes.
I mean, just the Santa hat.
The Santa hat, yes.
By the way, they're Jewish stars, looks like.
It is.
I don't know.
It's really creepy, but I'm trying to think this is her on vacation. It's like, whew, just killed 5 patients today. Let me go vacation by a beach.
Daniela Poggiali, yes.
Yes.
Anyway.
Okay, yes.
In Delaware.
In Delaware.
Okay, on other medical news, it's not all about Ebola. A Delaware man is suing after waking up after a colonoscopy in pink undies.
Get out.
Now,
no,
thing
come
is,
on.
And it's true. I mean, you have anesthesia. You expect to wake up pretty much the way you went to bed, so to speak. But then again, is it grounds?
We're almost through.
Is it grounds for a lawsuit? I don't know. I mean,
are those the panties, or is this just
those are for illustrative?
Exactly. Yeah, this is just an illustration.
Those panties are for illustrative purposes only.
Because I'm thinking it would depend on the panties.
And if they were blue panties, would he have sued? Does he have a thing against pink? I don't know.
I don't know.
So you can have pink and blue together. Anyway.
I mean, it's so terrifying to me to think when we're under. What does the medical staff
do?
I
have to say, my father is an anesthesiologist, and he would never. I mean, we're talking very serious.
Would
never dream of putting someone in pink panties.
In pink panties. Okay.
No.
Yeah. Blue maybe. But yes,
blue maybe. Nurses makes me think of Glenn Close. Yes. The World According to Garp.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, 1982. Robin Williams. Well, she is back on Broadway. With Edward Albee's A Delicate Balance, and also she reveals that she grew up in a cult.
Really?
Yes.
Like what type of a cult?
It was called the Moral Rearmament, and actually,
You're right about that.
Take it away.
Yeah, please.
No.
Moral Rearmament.
Her father joined it, and it had to do with his years spent as a doctor in the Congo, which inspired him to join this religious sort of cult.
Does the article say what they were representing? What they are,
moral issues.
Moral issues.
That
if you do not follow, you find yourself in the basement.
It was basically a cult. That she says was a cult, and it took her a long time to kind of leach it out of her system.
Ugh.
I mean, it wasn't like a violent kind of cult apparently, but it was brainwashing.
Think this way.
Think this way.
Or
act
no
this
pudding
way.
for you.
But she forgives her father.
I'm very happy.
Yeah, she's very big on that right now.
She's big on forgiving. Okay,
Yeah.
creepy. But that may explain Fatal Attraction. Okay.
Oh, yeah, Fatal. What a movie.
Yeah.
In Florida, a man was assaulted by his own lawnmower and drowned because of it.
And the lawnmower now dies in freak accident after his lawnmower.
Now this slides into a canal and he couldn't get out of it. Now this is actually a tragedy, but it goes to show.
Yes.
Have you been to Florida?
Oh yeah.
You see they have these canals there?
Yes.
Because it's basically a swamp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people forget. Yeah.
So basically,
on so many levels.
On so many levels. So apparently, landscape doing his thing with a lawnmower, and it kind of lost control. And then you get into one of those canals. It's hard to climb out. And if you linger in it too long, there's alligators.
I was about to say.
There's alligators.
You got me there. It's like it's that, and then if you don't get out, it's the alligators. Oh my lord.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
one last
disturbing.
one quickly, if we have one.
The rise of the lesbians.
Yes, where?
Okay, everywhere.
Woohoo!
Everywhere you look.
Is that a word now? So lesbians?
So lesbians. Apparently that's a word.
If it's in the New York Post, it's a word.
Okay.
So high-powered celebrity couples, lesbian now, it no longer even raises, it's like Ellen DeGeneres, Anne H.
Yeah, sadly.
That's no longer shocking.
You know, all the time we have, but it makes me want to sing, it's raining lesbians. Can we
It's raining lesbians. Celebrate with a cocktail.
Amen.
Yeah.
Bar, thank you for being with us. Tony Grand, my God, I love you to pieces.
Thank
Pleasure having lesbians news with us in the studio. Stick with us when we get back. Some environmental stuff. Before anything else, the morning headlines. Good morning. Thank you for staying with us. I-24 News Morning Edition, October 17th, 2014. The place should be. Why? Because Netta Achitov is here. And she's the only other brilliantly intelligent blonde in the studio other than me. I'm just saying, Ziv, yeah. No. Yeah.
I am a blonde.
Inside,
but
inside, you're blonde. You lost weight. I'll talk about that later.
Yes, you should.
And we have Schwarzenegger with us today.
Yes!
Yay!
Okay, Netta Achitov, quickly though, the environmentalist guru mama that joins us with anything and everything that's green and important. Go ahead. Yes.
So in France, there is the first global nuclear energy trade show. We're not talking about nuclear weapon. We're talking about nuclear energy.
Okay.
And it's only trade and business, and it's really a big deal because it's the first time nuclear energy is out of the closet, in a way.
Yeah.
They have this trade show. 50 ministers, vice ministers, and top managers are coming to the show. Greenpeace is waiting for them outside,
Yes.
of course. You can be sure in one thing in
Greenpeace
life.
is there. Yeah.
Greenpeace will be waiting for you.
Dressed, clothes, we don't know.
Yes. Demonstrating against it. They say that, okay, they agree that 80% of energy produced today is out of coal and fossil fuels, and it's not very good for the environment. But they say the solution is not nuclear energy, it's renewable energy.
Right.
Wind, solar, etc. And they're really angry at that trade show. But on the other hand,
nuclear energy is something that fuels a lot of,
yes.
a lot of things.
I think a lot of fear. The name is quite scary in a
the
way.
Name is terrifying.
Yeah,
but there have been accidents also.
Yeah,
in
and
the
there are
past.
Fukushima is one example.
Nuclear energy.
Chernobyl is another example.
Inexpensive.
Yeah, there are accidents, and it's dangerous in a way, and
in a way, and incredibly so and frightening.
Yeah.
Yes.
It sounds more dangerous than wind or like sun.
Yes.
In a way, maybe it's a semantic problem, and they just need to change their name. Let's call ourselves.
Well, what can we call it? Yeah,
pink energy.
Pink energy. Okay, I was going to go for atomic energy, but that's as frightening as nuclear. Yes. And what else?
And Schwarzenegger.
Of course.
I
From one frightening bit of news to another.
I really appreciate the guy.
Really?
Lately, yes. The Terminator is not so terminating anymore. He's sweet, nice, and green.
And green. Apparently, we have a little soundbite for me to take a look in here. Let's hear Schwarzenegger. Okay.
I had a wonderful meeting with the president, with the foreign minister, and we talked about the environment, about how do we reach a global agreement. And as I've said to the president, insanity is to do the same thing over and over again, but to expect different results. And President Holland totally agreed that we have to approach the negotiations from different angles in order to be successful.
Okay, where is this and why?
Let's say environment.
Environment, yeah.
Altogether. This is I appreciate the guy.
Okay, you appreciate him, but he's saying this to the world.
This is on the steps of the Élysée. He just finished a meeting with François Hollande from France, and they're talking about the World Climate Change Summit that is going to take place in France in 2015, at the end of 2015. And he arrived to France to convince Hollande to do whatever he can, make all effort possible to make this agreement between countries be signed.
Right.
And he says there, we didn't hear it, that he was very surprised at how much Holland cares about the environment. And he has he founded an organization called R20, and it's an organization of local and regional authorities that are not...
He was the governor of California.
Yes, exactly.
So
he is the former California governor. And he said this foundation that he found, and he personally says, we don't need to wait for the countries to sign in. We don't need to wait for a big UN agreement. We can do it ourselves regionally, and this is what he's promoting.
Which is lovely, and
which is also great to hear Schwarzenegger talking environmentally.
I know, and saying you cannot expect to do the same thing over and over again, such as do the Terminator and think that you can act. I never said that, but yes.
I was very
excited.
Losing the guitar,
I'm totally with you.
You're totally with
I'm
us.
there.
Yeah,
I'm there.
Personally, I was very excited to hear, Schwarzenegger with his amazing accent saying,
environment.
Saying environment
there's
and
something
phrases
that makes you think, he's going to do it.
Yes, you believe him.
Unless that's how, Skynet was created.
Of course.
I'm
Skynet,
just saying,
that's from the film.
You
He's
send the Terminator to the past, say, yes, let's work on the environment, because that's what Skynet needs.
And then he kills us all. Okay, fine.
We will talk about it in 2 minutes.
Okay,
so in Brazil, they found out all of a sudden in the Amazon, in the forest, in the rainforest, that there are places where there are no trees. And they tried...
In the Amazon?
Yes. Okay. Greenpeace was investigating it for 4 years, and they found out it's illegal trees being transported to France, Belgium, Sweden, and Netherlands.
Oh my God!
These are 3 sawmills, illegal sawmills that just take the trees from here, from there, and then you can't notice it in a satellite image. And they export them to Europe, and they're very popular in Europe for pool decks. And they are also very expensive. They cost 3,200 per square meter.
Right.
And the Europeans just love these trees, but they don't know that they're illegal. So now they're initiating this big campaign against illegal trees. So when you buy a tree for your pool deck,
because there's not enough trouble with the rainforests,
yes.
And the fact that mankind is destroying them, let's also steal them now and export them to Europe.
Illegally.
Yeah, illegally. Nice.
So next time we buy, decks for our pool, for our backyard, we should...
Because I've been looking for... I've been looking for a deck for my pool.
We should really take notice where they're coming from.
I will make sure that the pool in my backyard... Yes. Okay.
Yes. And finally, Verdi's La Traviata in a natural reserve in Australia. This is the highest, the coolest thing that is happening in Australia. This is the 14th year that it's happening. They just stand there and sing opera singing while crickets, kangaroos, birds, and other wildlife animals just come, join the singing, or just
I'm sure the crickets are going who are these people? Get them out of here. Have they asked permission from the animals to come? Okay.
So this is the Undara Volcanic National Park. It's known for its lava tubes and underground caverns, and it's very popular among tourists.
Very nice.
This is
it's a performing opera in open space. It's kind of like Shakespeare in the Park.
Exactly, but this is really in the wildlife.
You basically have to hike there and come with it.
And people come from all over the world. They, make an effort.
It's amazing, but they said nobody ever asked the animals, but fine.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with you. We should ask the animals.
Exactly, ask the animals. Netta, thank you. Don't move anywhere because... We have mega geek author and game designer Ziv Kitaro, who has not seen me in 6 months.
Yeah.
I know.
What's up with that?
I mean, basically, I was pregnant, I gave birth, but you're the one who lost weight.
But that I gave birth as well.
You did, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I made 7 million pounds. Because I was the first.
You were the first man to give birth. How come you lost so much weight? Tell me afterwards.
Because I don't eat
at all. Okay. Now,
what do you have? What's your secret? I don't eat.
And what do you have for us today?
Okay, so first, there's a whole thing now with companies. This week, we heard that HBO is cutting the cable, and from 2015 in the US, you'll be able to go with HBO Go, their mobile subscription, without being part of their cable, normal cable one. So this is a trend because Netflix basically, if you have Netflix, you can go wherever you want,
Wherever you want to, yeah.
any device. And there's another
So
trend.
HBO is going to become like that. I can have HBO on my
so
phones,
that's
on my...
one trend. But another trend that we're seeing is the whole thing where the whole industry, this industry is going through all sorts of changes. So we have Netflix creating their own original series, which were brilliantly accepted. Amazon.
And then you can watch these series. You don't have to wait weekly.
Right.
You can
All
just
of it
download the whole
dumped
thing.
in one place, and you
Love
can
it.
see everything.
Yeah.
Amazon is doing things which weren't that successful, but it's getting traction. And last year on Xbox, they declared that Steven Spielberg is going to do the Halo series. And now we have the first show coming from Sony for their Sony PlayStation network.
Called what?
Everybody's
Powers.
an artist. Like,
Yeah. So because they understand that this is a big deal and this is the time to do the changes to the industry. If you go now and you succeed now, you'll be able to be part of this new world. Yeah.
Exactly. It'll be one
so
of the
Powers is basically, it's based on a comic book by Brian Michael Bendis. It's a serious superheroes comic book.
Right.
It's called Powers because in this world, the superhumans are called powers. This guy, Christian Walker, was a power himself. He lost all his abilities and he became a detective working with Diana Pilgrim, his partner over there somewhere.
Right.
And they investigate crimes that have to do with superhumans. And he uses
so actually, that's a game, isn't it?
It's not a game. It's not a game.
Not
comic
a game.
book. Just a
comic book. Okay.
And now a TV show. It looks interesting from the trailer. The comic book itself is very, very good. I mean, it's written for mature audience. It uses it uses for intelligence blonde. It uses the whole superheroes trope to tell interesting stories about humanity. So this show
interesting. But as you said, they're setting the people, the big companies that get into the game quote unquote. Now they're the ones who are going to set the
most
scene.
Definitely.
So
most definitely.
Interesting. And I'm looking at this series. Is this like Netflix? I remember when Netflix launched its original series, it had people like Robin Wright in it. We're talking about major actors. So this is kind of the same, isn't it?
Yeah. I forgot his name. They brought the guy from. I forgot all.
They brought the guy they know.
They brought the guy from Elysium
and moving on.
And all the rest. Now, next thing, important and very, very interesting. Kim Rocco's short film "Love Is All You Need" is still a 20 minutes movie that you can watch, which is in a world that everyone are homosexual and
Ooh, really?
Being straight is strange and look, it's frowned upon. So it's very, very interesting.
Wow.
This 20 minutes clip is very, very powerful. The ending
on YouTube, you can
watch it. It's free, 42 million times watched. It's hard. It's a very, very high quality, very well written movie.
And that's now going to be made. So the premise is actually the world is mostly gay. It's mostly same-sex marriages.
Yeah, so you see the same situation. So there's a girl who wants to date. She falls in love with a boy.
And she doesn't know how to feel about it. And that's a big no-no.
And
wow.
Well, I won't spoil.
Don't spoil.
But the ending of the short film is very disturbing, and I cried. Most people who saw it cried. And it's going to be very interesting to see how and what they're going to do with a full feature, length movie.
So
go and watch it. Go and watch it.
It made him cry.
Love Is All You Need.
And
it's on mobile. So last week, I think we talked about Mars. And going to Mars, and a few months back we talked we were here. It was before you left me.
Okay.
Before you deserted me. We talked about Mars One, the plan to go to Mars in 2020 and bring people there who are taking one-way ticket to Mars.
Nice.
They will never come back. And that's a very interesting mission. And the thing is, we want to create colonies on Mars. We have to do it. So this is it,
And why is it doomed?
Millions of people wanted to come in, and they have enough. So MIT did a research from the information available from Mars One, and they say that there are two crucial problems with this mission. First, not enough food.
Not enough food?
From the information that they got and the whole
the
technology that we know now,
starve.
there's not enough food. So they won't survive.
Not enough or no food?
Not enough food. They won't survive 2 years.
Survive. Okay.
Second thing, we don't have the technology to. No, they're not coming back. We can't. The whole. Well, they have to create their own oxygen source. So we don't have the technology to actually filter out excess.
What do you mean they have to? Let's say this mission goes on.
Suffocate.
So actually you land, it's a one-way ticket because you get to Mars, you land, and you immediately die.
And another problem that the Mars One said that's going to be a problem is spare parts, actually, because they need to add extra spare parts unless they'll bring people in 2 or 3 years, again, another mission. But the CEO of Mars One says that he appreciates. First of all, no, he should have stopped us. Yeah. I'm not going to. But he says that he's glad about the research, but he's going to give MIT more information about how they're doing it. So hopefully, this criticism will going to be a partnership that will help make this mission
Your logo should be "Come kill yourself on Mars."
Elon Musk, just last week talked about the fact that we need to go to Mars. The human race has to go out and start.
We really must. I think we should. I think other people should, and they send us a postcard. Sadly,
let's kill other planets.
I know. We have no time for anything else. There was something.
You'll wrap it up. I'll go to my next.
Go to your next one. I'm going to be wrapping up. That's it for us this morning. Visit us on the web. There was something Star Wars. Give me the headline. There was no time for the headline.
New book.
New book?
Yeah, bye.
Okay. That was it for us. Visit us on Facebook or on Twitter. Don't forget to join us again on Monday morning to start your day as you should every day. And also next week, Steve Guittaro will follow up with anything he had no time to say today if he does not choose to go to Mars first. So yes, have a great weekend. And of course, start your day with the morning edition next week. That was it for us.